Okay.
Pick six brought to you by Davidson's Liquors. Let's go for it.
What's the question?
The question is the 6 biggest upsets in NCAA tournament history. Could be.
Well, it would be my opinion about it. It's not definitive.
Okay.
Number 6. That would be Santa Clara over Arizona, 1993. Do you have any thoughts about that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
They're on my list, so you go ahead.
There's one thing about, you go Santa Clara, they were like 50-point underdogs. They had a guy named Steve Nash from Canada that nobody had ever heard of. Number 6.
Yep.
They came back and won 64-61. Number 5 on my list. Villanova over Georgetown, 1985. Raleigh Massimino, Georgetown with John Thompson and Georgetown favored.
And a guy named Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, and Villanova pulled a gigantic upset over Georgetown in the final. Number 4 on my list would be Texas Western over Kentucky.
2-minute warning.
Kentucky was coached by Adolph Rupp, 1966. Dan Issel was there. He doesn't talk much about it. Texas Western was the first African-American, all African-American team to win the NCAA title, and that was one of the major accomplishments in the history of sports in this country.
Yep.
Texas Western, if you didn't know, became UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso. Duke over UNLV, 1991. UNLV was going for its second title.
They won the first one here.
Yeah, 1990, UNLV won here when Bobby Hurley, who's now coaching Buffalo, had to go in before the game start and hurl.
And that's how he got the name Bobby Hurley.
No, but it was Hurley's hurl. And Duke won the next year. And that was a big upset because UNLV probably, I saw Las Vegas said that they would pick UNLV's team in 1991, even though they didn't win, they would pick them by 8 over this Kentucky team. So, number 2. My mother winning ESPN's ATH pool in 2011. Talk about an upset.
Huge.
Oh, that was an upset.
Historical.
I mean, you had all these people, supposedly professional experts, and she picked, if you missed it earlier, she picked dogs and cats, and then if there wasn't a dog or a cat, and there are, we've already proven there's probably 35, 40 teams, you pick red, white, and blue colors.
Yeah, I remember the satellite trucks lined up outside of your mother's home that day.
Yeah, Around the Horn wanted to fly her to Washington, D.C.
Seriously?
And present her with a plaque, but she didn't want to get on an airplane. Number 1 all time, and I was there for it, 1983, North Carolina State over Phi Slamma Jamma, Guy Lewis, and Clyde Drexler, and Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yes.
That was one of the greatest teams of all time in college. And North Carolina State, great comeback. And that's when the famous Jim Valvano and Rick Riley and I were sitting right across, because we were considered, Denver was considered like the host team. I mean, the host newspaper.
City.
The Denver Post was selling more than the Albuquerque Tribune. And Rick Riley and I are sitting across from Jim Valvano, and he kind of punched me. He said, "Look at him. He was running around trying to find somebody that would celebrate with him." And it's one of the famous moments. Also, that and the air ball that was put in at the last moment.
All right. Our pick 6 brought to you by Davidson's Liquors, where you can walk in and make your own 6-pack with all the craft beers they have in the store. All right, my pick 6. 6 biggest upsets in NCAA history. The snub of Colorado State this year. Very upsetting, especially for people in Fort Collins. Maybe the biggest snub of all time in the NCAA tournament. My number 5 upset. I'm very upset that Charles Barkley is on the broadcast for CBS. He's not a college guy. He doesn't know the college game. He shouldn't be on the college. Love him on the NBA pre- and post-game show. College, no. All right, now I'll get serious. My 4th biggest upset, as you said, Texas Western over Kentucky, and it was no doubt the most impactful upset in college basketball history because 5 African Americans started for Texas Western for the first time ever in college basketball history.
I got to know one of those players really well, was around him. He played in the ABA, had one of the greatest nicknames of all time, Les.
That was his first name?
Hunter.
Nickname?
Big Game.
Ooh, I like that one.
Less big game hunter.
They bagged big game in Kentucky right there. My third biggest upset in NCAA history, they're going to be very similar to yours here. Santa Clara over Arizona. It was Steve Nash and a bunch of surfer dudes. And do you know that Arizona scored 25 straight points in that game and still lost? It was a 15 seed beating a number 2 seed. My second biggest upset in NCAA history, Villanova over Georgetown. Are you aware that Villanova missed one shot in the whole second half?
No.
They played a near-perfect game to beat Patrick Ewing and Georgetown.
I was there.
And Georgetown won it the year before.
I was there.
Yeah. And number 1, this was on your list as well, NC State over Houston and Phi Slamma Jamma. That was a perfect example, and you and I have had this discussion before, perfect example of how college basketball is about recruiting more than it is about coaching. There are a lot of guys like Guy Lewis of Houston, Dale Brown, who knew how to recruit, but just weren't great coaches. And it almost didn't matter. They had all that talent on the floor, didn't know how to get over the hump.
Who was the old Maryland coach?
The old
Maryland coach.
Lefty Drizel.
And they'd always say every year, hey, the great news is Lefty Drizel just had another great recruiting class. The bad news is he's going to coach
He
them.
has to coach them. All right, Davidson's Liquors. You can make your own 6-pack from a wide selection of craft beers. Shop online with free delivery at davidsonsliquor.com. Experience the Davidson's difference. Yeah, I said free delivery.